Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to Game 14 of Ducks on the Pond podcast, the official baseball podcast of Sauce on the Side. I'm your host, Drake, coming to you live from the kennel, and joined, as always, by the producer, by the co-host, Leighton Pip Shaventone.
How you doing, everybody?
And making his appearance back, possibly my favorite baseball brain, outside of Jessica Mendoza, Dylan Cappy Sollers.
This is the equivalent of Bob Lee doing Outside the Lines.
And I absolutely love it. Glad to have you back, Bob. Dippers, be sure to download, rate, subscribe every single show. You can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us on iTunes. Be sure to listen to the draft special this week of Hump Day Hoops Hysteria with Fletcher. Be sure to listen to the Mothership Show tomorrow and your MMA picks, which we have a huge UFC card coming up this weekend. Tune in to Knuckle Sandwich every Thursday and get those picks from Mr. Shackelford himself. Guys, we have a very big show for you today. We have Clayton Kershaw making his return back in a very weird scenario. We have Bryce Harper wanting to appear in the Home Run Derby under one stipulation. We may see a Hall of Famer on the move, and Cappy's Corner is back. But before we get to any of that, Leighton C., you know what to do. Drop the tunes.
Hey, Ducks on the Pond here, kid. Ducks on the Pond. Let's go now, baby. Drive 'em in. Welcome to Ducks on the Pond,
A Sauce on the Side production. All right, I hinted at it before we played the music there. Clayton Kershaw came back in a very weird scenario. A lot of reports said that he was going to have a rehab start, and they were going to try to get him right, and the game got rained out. So, boom, out of nowhere, Saturday night, he returned from the DL, threw 55 pitches, allowed 2 runs against the Mets, which 2 runs against the Mets is a whole lot of runs. Guys, what do you think about Kershaw for the remainder of the season? What did we see from Kershaw yesterday?
Well, I think, like you talked about the fact that it was kind of a weird scenario, him coming back, the fact that they had scheduled him for a rehab start, that rehab start got rained out, so then they just up and decided to bring him all the way back. I don't know about that. You're talking about a low back injury that he has dealt with multiple times. I don't know, man. If I were them, they've played well enough to get themselves back in this race without him. I would almost err on the side of caution and have waited a few more weeks, if not until the All-Star break.
Yeah, me too. At least like you said, it's really weird how they had it going. Like, people did a rehab start that day and got rained out to say school was still right back in the big game. I guess it doesn't matter where you pitch at for the first time, but I'm with you. I would have wait a few more time because they're all playing better. They're all back in the this race now. And like you said, that back, it is every season he hurts his back. And so, an injury like that, and with the back injury for a pitcher, I would keep him out almost to the All-Star break, to be honest, if I could.
That's the same here. All-Star break for me, too.
Yeah, especially, it's one thing to try to rush a guy back if you're in trouble.
Right.
But you're only 2.5 games out. You've played your best baseball with Kershaw on the pine.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see why it's necessary to say, hey, let's just throw him out here. Sunday night game against the Mets. It doesn't make any sense to me to rush him back. Hold him out to the All-Star break, like you said. It's a lingering injury. You would rather see Kershaw healthy come September than right now.
Yeah, and to your point, if they had just completely fallen off, getting close to that, by this time of the season, that 7-8 games back where we could maybe start to hit the panic button, yeah, maybe is it worth rushing him back? But to all of our points that we've made at this point, that really did not make a whole lot of sense.
You know what's crazy is that you hinted at it. Like right now, if you're, I would say you're in contention still at the 7-8 mark. There's only, I believe there's only 5 teams in the NL that are outside of that 7-game mark. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So another superstar making the headlines was Bryce Harper. They asked him if he would do the home run derby. I believe we've only seen Harper in the home run derby once in his career, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 2013. He was super young.
Yeah.
Says that he will only do the home run derby if he's named to the All-Star team. Currently batting, he's not even batting his body weight. I had to double check that stat and see how much he weighed. He's hitting 212. 19 home runs and 45 RBIs. He leads the NL in both home runs and walks. Guys, do you think that he will make the All-Star team and actually compete in the home run derby?
I'm not sure what the current NL outfield looking like, but in no way there's.
He's second right now, right behind Markakis,
okay,
which is kind of crazy to say in 2018.
In no way, shape, or form does he deserve to be on the All-Star team. But we all know the All-Star team every year is kind of bullshit because the fans pick the starters. We had one year we had like 6 or 7 Royals starting. Then one year we had like the 7 Cubs starting because the fans just go on there and vote, and you vote for your favorite players. And Bryce Harper is probably the most liked player in baseball, so he will make the All-Star team. But if you have like a fan vote, I don't see how the Nationals can justify picking him as their team selection.
Oh no.
Well,
I think he's like 5th on their team in hits.
is he really that undeserving of an all-star spot, though? Because, I mean, he's still getting on base. He's still leading the league in walks. He's still probably going to be at about the 25 home run mark by the all-star break. Yeah, he's not hitting for an average right now, but he's also been slumping. That's going to round itself back up at some point. But I think you're right. I don't think he needs to be a starter at this point just because he's Bryce Harper. But he will definitely, whether we want him to or not, he's going to make it on a fan vote. And like he gave the terms and conditions of he'll hit in the home run derby if, well, all that is it's a power move. It's a typical B-Harp, like,
Oh yeah.
he's looking for that fan vote and he's going to get it. You guys are right.
No, yeah, that's like the best PR move of all time for Bryce Harper. You're not hitting. I mean, whenever I say you're not hitting well, he's just not hitting well for average. So how do you get your name as a start? How are you going to become a starter? Everybody wants to see him in the home run derby. Everybody loves seeing the young guys who just go up there and mash. We want to see a ton of home runs. And Bryce Harper, what would the home run derby be this year without Bryce Harper? I mean, it wouldn't be as exciting. You throw Bryce Harper anywhere and it becomes automatically twice as fun to watch. And the people that are voting for the All-Star games, they're not your 50, 40, older MLB fans. They're your young cats, the guys who are going to be watching the home run derby. And, all 3 of us sitting here, we all want to see Bryce Harper in the home run derby. So, I mean, it makes people more apt to vote for Bryce Harper, to put him into the All-Star game. And, playing as bad as he has been as far as an average standpoint, he's still second in the list. And I expect him, after making this claim, I would not be surprised if he leads all NL outfielders in votes.
Do you think there could be a conspiracy going on? Because like we said, it's in D.C., a conspiracy between the league office and the Nationals to get him into the All-Star game because it's at D.C., and then the Nationals told Bryce Harper, we need you in this game. What can you do to help us? Well, okay, I can't hit for shit, but I hit a lot of dingers. How to say that he could home run derby.
It very well could be. I think it's an excellent move by Bryce Harper to come out and say that. Now, I think whether or not he's even voted in, he should be in the home run derby, whether or not he's an all-star.
I don't think he needs any prompt to make that sort of move. I don't think he needs a prompt from the office or the Nationals organization. But if, with it being in D.C., I mean, he's got to be in the game, whether he's starting or not. And he's got to be in the home run derby. Now, if I'm the Nationals organization, if he doesn't make it into the home run derby, am I sad about that? I don't think so. I'm not a big... I think the home run derby is very entertaining. I like watching it. But if the guys that are successful in it usually, you look at the start they have to their second halves, and I don't know, man. It's just like they fall off for a while. Like, look at Judge last year.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he picked it up, but he fell off the face of the earth for the month of August.
Yeah, I was really happy when I saw that J. Martinez and Mookie Betts said they weren't going to do the home run derby.
Yeah, and there's
very, very pleased to see that.
It's getting to the point now with, like, guys are starting to just say, no, it's not worth me being in the home run derby, man. I'm not going to struggle in the second half just to win this one night,
Do you buy into that? Do you think that there's actual reason for that to happen, or do you think it's just by chance?
I do, but now that we've talked about it before, how the game is evolving to where launch angle and guys are purposely starting to uppercut, I didn't think it was going to be as prevalent. But man, I mean, it took Judge a month to correct himself last year, and I really do. I almost think that probably like as soon as they go into the All-Star break, guys start taking BP that are in the home run derby, and they immediately just start adjusting their swing. And it only takes like so many reps to change your swing like that, and now you got to change it back. So to me, if I were like having a good season, And especially if I were like in a contract year like Harper, I do not want a chance screwing up an entire month of my season.
Right. But, I mean, Harper's already, it seems like this season, he's already kind of in that home run derby type swing.
Yeah. And I think that, again, that's just with the territory of the game. And I think he is pressing in his contract year. I think he is, trying to get it to 50 home runs, 120 RBIs. But just to go off topic real quick, because the three of us haven't discussed it in a while, and I don't see it getting brought up, and let's bring it up right now. Do you think even if, let's say he finishes the season about where he's at right now, he hits like 220, 230, 40 home runs, however many RBIs, do you think he still gets $300 million?
I think he's a lock with a $100 million contract. Okay, he's 26 years old, and they can space out 10 years, $300 million. Most teams can, no problem. But earlier this season, talked about $400 million, and people, media talked about that. I think that's about average at this point. I think with how this last free agency went and how the players you signed for the lower numbers are performing, teams feel like they don't have to pay guys $400 million to get this, especially if they're not going to bat $250.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I think that Bryce Harper, he's kind of that guy that not only is he really, really good at baseball, but he also is one of those guys that sells well. So you look at all your large market teams, they're going to go out there and they would easily pay $300 million for Kershaw or for Harper. Because, I mean, you look at Giancarlo Stanton. Stanton does not sell as well as Harper does. I don't think anybody else in the MLB sells as well as Harper. Not as many people are tuned into other players as they are Harper. So a guy like that going to a large market, $300 million just a drop in the bucket for them to be able to get a guy that we're talking about 26 years old. You throw him $30 million a year for 10 years, he's easily hitting that $300 million mark, and it's worth it. It's worth it, especially if he can get back to that 2015 production that, he was hitting 330 and he was on absolute terror. And people are going to look at that year and say, he's 26 years old. We're going to get him back to that. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all.
And don't take this out of context, what I'm getting ready to say, because I am not comparing like Bryce Harper is to baseball, what LeBron is to basketball. Because if there's anybody in the game like that, I think it's Trout more so than Harper. But from a marketability standpoint, I think Harper has that LeBron effect wherever he goes. Like, the revenue sells in everything, whether it's tickets, not only tickets, just anything that has to do with a team's revenue and income. I think he positively affects that wherever he goes.
Yeah, I agree with that. I look at him almost like that. You look at basketball and you compare it just straight across. Harper's almost like that James Harden. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he's a great player and he's super marketable because everybody loves James Harden. Everybody loves the beard.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that. And Harper going out there and he sells. He sells like James Harden does. And Harden, I think in like 3 or 4 years, he's up to make $43 million, which would be the largest amount of money we've ever seen a basketball player make. And that's just because of the marketability of this player who's also really good. And Harper's one of those guys who he's a great player. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. And you mix that with, the ability to market that guy. The sky's the limit for what he makes. It's going to be something stupid. It's going to be the largest contract in baseball history.
Did you guys see that statement from an anonymous GM that said, like, basically called Harper, and this was just like a month ago, like a selfish player, said he's not a winner, like all he cares about is himself, and like they would not sign him for anything.
I did see that, yeah.
This is the same guy that rushed his injury back so he could make the postseason last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Get lost, dude.
And it's not, I don't put the blame solely on him for a lot of the times that the Nationals have fallen short in the division series and not been able to make, deep runs into the playoffs.
You know who never won a ring? Nolan Ryan. Mm-hmm. Was he a selfish player?
Right.
It's baseball.
Yeah.
You have to have baseball is one of those sports that you have to have everybody playing well in order to win a title.
Yeah. Well, and just as easily could bring up Trout. I mean, that's the same thing.
Yeah, you never won a playoff game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me. And you look at a guy like Ben Zobrist. He's won rings with multiple teams. Are you telling me that Ben Zobrist is a better winner than Bryce Harper? No. Bryce Harper does way more for a team than what Ben Zobrist does. It just being fortunate and being put in the right situations. Mm-hmm. It's been more than just Bryce Harper falling short for them. That doesn't make any sense to me. So we have a future Hall of Famer, absolute lock actually for the Hall of Fame, being announced that he is on the market, and that's Adrian Beltre. And I think that, like Harper, this is another one of those very, very likable players. In a season where perennial all-star third basemen like Josh Donaldson, Mike Moustakas, and even Manny Machado moved to shortstop this season to cash in on some more coin. What do you think Beltre's worth is in this offseason? Or in this on the trade deadline?
I think he is. I'm more so glad for him that he's going to get out of that situation in Texas to where he's going to have a chance in his last year and a half to maybe be on a winning team. And I think he adds a lot, not only his veteran presence. Obviously his bat is not what it used to be, but it's still productive. It's still the glove plays. He's great defensively. And just kind of that mantra, his attitude, that's something that if I'm on a contending team, I want in my clubhouse.
Oh, yeah.
As for what he's worth, it's hard to say because I feel like I've been named either Josh Donaldson or Moustakas are going to set market value for the next two guys. I feel like Beltre's below those three and Machado is definitely above those three. They all three had a contract ending this season. So if I'm the Rangers, if I can get any high-level prospect, I'm taking that trade. If I can get a couple, like mid-tier prospect, I'm taking that trade too.
Yeah, I think that if you're the Rangers, you can't sit on your hands and just kind of watch the last 2 years of Adrian Beltre's basically baseball career just unfold on a very, very bad baseball team. You got to take whatever you can get. You got to move him at the deadline. You could probably move him before the deadline, maybe be early on it. That way, you set the value for the other guys. Don't sit there and wait for Machado to get traded or wait for Moustakas to get traded. Go out there and be the first one to trade one of these good third basemen. And if you are a fringe playoff team, I think that's worth I don't want to say a top 100 prospect, but a good prospect that can help you win games down the future. Maybe a couple good prospects.
Yeah, you're going to have to give away a couple.
Yeah, but do you think he's worth the top 100 guys?
See, if I'm a team, the only team that I can see him fitting in well on, in my opinion, is the Angels, because those are Ohtani. They need DH. They got Kessler to play third base. Killen's been awful at third base for him this season. So I think the Angels are the best shooter for Beltre. And if I'm the Angels, I don't know the farm system, but if I can just give away number 9 or 10 prospect for Beltre and try to make the playoffs and push it with Trout, I do that.
Well, and I don't know, at this point, do the Angels feel like they have a playoff hope with having lost Ohtani? And you still, I think, got to make that move because they seem to put themselves in the same position no matter what big contract they sign. The Angels are always in the same boat, it seems like, every season. This is going to be the year that they make a push, and then inevitably it ends up not being, and now the Mariners have leapfrogged them for that second spot in the West. But I think that's a good call, Leighton. And out of our three teams, thinking, and I know we talked about this before the show, the Cardinals maybe being a suitor for him. I don't know that the Rangers really want a Major League ready guy in return right now, but it would almost be a logjam of infielders for the Cardinals if they picked him up.
Yeah. Do you think that they could possibly move like a Colton Wong, though? A guy who's had success, kind of been, flash in the pan at times, but, he's younger, and he could help you win in the future.
Yeah, it depends. I think he's in, year 2, maybe year 3 of that $25 million contract. I more so don't see the Rangers wanting to participate in that, getting Wong.
Yeah, I agree with that because Rangers already have core young guy. They have Gallo, Mazzara, and this kid named Jurickson Profar who was a super high top prospect and just kind of really get together. So if I'm the Rangers, I just want minor league players at this point.
Yeah. One team that I absolutely love if Beltre could make his way there is a team that, I've been talking about this team, and their championship window has got to be coming to a close at some point soon because they are getting older, and that's the Mariners. I really like this for the simple fact that, this team's built around older guys. Cano's 35, Cruz is 37, and then you'd have Beltre who's 39. If you could get Beltre to the Mariners to add another bat, you throw Corey Seager's brother. He could play DH on some days, could spend some time at second base, which he has in the past, which if you were going to do that, you'd have to move D. Gordon to the outfield on occasion, which at the beginning of the season they were comfortable with doing that. I think Beltre could be the guy to put the Mariners over the hump and get them back into the postseason, because if they could get Beltre, I look at that team as an absolute lock to make the postseason this year.
Would you guys say that Beltre at this point and Cano are like interchangeable? Obviously not at the same exact position, but like from an offensive production standpoint, because I mean they're not going to have Cano for the playoffs if they make it there.
I think Cano will be there at the very, he'd be the last 20 games of the season.
Yeah.
Right, but if they make the playoffs, he's not eligible.
Oh, he's not?
No.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. He's suspended. That's why they're moving Gordon back to second now for the remainder of the season.
Then I think you have to go make that move.
Yeah.
You have to make that move, because if you're not going to have Cano there for the postseason, you don't have very good chances. But if you could put Beltre in there, and, it's hard because a lot of those guys are kind of log jam, like you said about the Cardinals, into the same position. But if you could maybe move D. Gordon back to the outfield and put Seager at second, which Seager played there early in his career, I wouldn't imagine that transition would be super hard for him. We've seen Cruz. He hasn't played in the outfield, I think, in the last, he played a couple games in the outfield last year, played a lot the year before that. Maybe he could even get some time in the outfield. But if you're moving those older guys around to where they can have DH days or just be off a day, I think that would be really, really big for them, especially moving into the postseason, because those guys will be healthy and they'll be ready to go.
Think of the names that you'd have on that team, too. King Felix, Nelson Cruz, Adrian, Robinson Cano.
That would be fun.
That's a lot of big names and a lot of experience. They could make some noise.
Yeah, I think that would be a perfect fit, and I that's what I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for him to go to the Mariners, because all those old dudes, you got to be rooting for him. And at that point, they got to bring Ichiro back, and that way their starting lineups average age is 37, which would be funny. So trade deadline, we kind of hit on it. Trade deadline's July 31st. What big name guys do you see being on the move, and who do you think that those players are going to go to?
Not a real big name, not one that's going to jump off the page at you, but I look at a guy, J.A. Happ, with the Blue Jays. I think his production has been consistent. It's been there. You've got a good lefty starter. Who of a playoff perennial team does not need a good left-handed starter in their rotation? I think that is the Yankees, because Leighton and I talked about it before the show. The Red Sox starting lineup, a third of their guys, left-handed hitters. I think for a 3-game set, if you get into October, they face each other, a 5 or 7-game set, you need that left-handed arm in the rotation to offset, which obviously the Yankees have more than one lefty, but the more the better for them, I think, because look at the teams you're matching up against. You cannot have enough left-handed starting pitching.
No, I agree with you. I think that would be a match made in heaven, especially for a guy like Happ, who's basically kind of came out of nowhere this season. I mean, he's been very, very good compared to where he normally is. Mm-hmm. And the name doesn't jump off the page to you, but his production does.
Yeah.
And I think that would immediately make the Yankees maybe your favorite in the AL if they got Happ.
Yeah. My player is Manny Machado, and I'm thinking about where he can go. The list is pretty short because, like I said, the last of his contract, and he's going to get a $300 million payday. And I don't know if anything can get that. So I picked the Dodgers for him to go to. We get a pretty short step now. We know Seager's out for this season, and the Dodgers have a top 10 farm system. And with a top 10 farm system, it's hard to see them being outbid by another team, because another team that I can see going for would be the Yankees. But the Yankees fully believe that they can just sign to make a deal this offseason and keep, Gleyber, keep Frazier, keep all the good prospects. So I really think that Machado can be traded to the Dodgers this season for probably 2 or 3 really good prospects. And then maybe they can re-sign him. They already have the highest payroll in baseball. I don't know where he will start next season necessarily this year coming back. But I can see the Dodgers trading for Machado to try and make a push this year for the World Series.
Yeah, and even if they did re-sign him, like Justin Turner's one of those guys that really can. He's the ultimate utility man, so he could slide somewhere else and open up a spot for Machado there at third. One trade that I really like to think about. I know that I said that Beltre would be my favorite fit with the Mariners, but this is kind of like you double them up here. So the Phillies. The Phillies are right there where they are a wild card team, and they have the Nats nipping at their heels. I think what they could possibly do is go after Beltre and Cole Hamels. Cole Hamels' name hasn't been open on the market yet, but I think it's just a matter of time because he's going to be able to get you more value than what Beltre will just by himself. I think that they could possibly maybe trade Franco and maybe a couple other smaller pieces that are in the farm systems, and that's going to make the Rangers better in the future and make the Phillies a very, very scary contender now, because obviously Beltre for this year and probably next year is going to be better than Franco, obviously, and especially with a team that's so young. I mean, they only have one everyday starter that's over the age of 30, that you could get some clubhouse leadership out of Beltre, kind of be an on-field coach and help them out a lot. And you're adding Cole Hamels, who would probably be the third arm in that rotation behind Nola and Arrieta. I think that would make the Phillies an immediate contender for the World Series, and it would also I think that makes them better than the Nats. I really do. If they were able to go out and get Cole Hamels, who'd be an excellent third starter, and Beltre to help those younger guys develop. I know it would only be for a year or two, but that's going to pay dividends down the road for those guys in the future.
I actually really like that pick, and I think to your point, if your return is going to be such with Beltre, why not? I think they'd be willing to part ways with Hamels too, because your return's only going to be that much better, just like you said. So,
right. Like a guy like Franco, you're not going to let go of him just for Beltre.
No.
Now, if you're getting Franco, or if you're getting Beltre and Cole Hamels, that's going to make you think. Mm-hmm. Especially in a team that is so young, you have a lot of players that you can move in and out, and Beltre, It has been proven that you have to have that veteran leadership in the ball club, whether it's a Ben Zobrist, David Ross type scenario. You have to have those guys there in order to make World Series run. That's just the magic. Mm-hmm. You got to have the young players with a mix of the old, and I think Hamels and Beltre do that for you both.
I agree.
So this is a segment that's kind of taken a hiatus. It comes and goes with Cappy. This is time for this is definitely my favorite baseball segment, but it's time for your Cappy's Corner.
Throw on your flat bill snapback and grab your jug of water. It's Cappy's Corner.
Well, this week, actually, I am hijacking Cappy's Corner because I've been dying to ask Cappy this question for about a month now. It's about pitcher injuries and how teams perceive them. So let's start, just focus on Tommy John injuries. Now, remember back in 2014, 2013, when the Mets had called up all the good starters, DeGrom, Syndergaard, Matz, and Zach Wheeler, and then Wheeler had Tommy John surgery. Mm-hmm. Do you remember whenever they were trying to trade for Cespedes or Carlos Gomez, Zach Wheeler was like the centerpiece in those trades, even though he hadn't pitched in a season and a half? Mm-hmm. And that was really the first time that you saw teams confident enough to go after a guy with Tommy John surgery.
I agree.
So do you feel like the Tommy John surgery teams just have no fear anymore? That they just think, okay, this kid had a brand new elbow, there's just no fear there?
Yeah, I think Tommy John surgery has evolved now to where you almost expect guys to, because there's a formula with the rehab now. We've seen guys come back in less than 12 months now. It's like they almost expect them to be better when they come back from Tommy John surgery. So I do think there is a no-fear equation now with TJ. Yeah,
and I need to say Zach Wheeler was not the starter that the Tigers thought he was at the time.
Right.
But you're not going to anyway.
I think that's more so just like that he was projected falsely anyway and not just a surgery thing.
Yeah, it wasn't the ace they thought it was. Mm-hmm. And now let's focus on all of the rest of the injuries. And this is really what I want to start looking at. Because 2 years ago, Alex Reyes tore his lat or whatever happened to him. Mm-hmm. And he had lat surgery. When he comes back, he could be okay, he could be fine. But over the long term of his career, he could have more injuries, and that could affect his contract status and how teams want to pay him.
Right.
Looking at this past offseason, the Cubs paid a lot of money for Yu Darvish,
Mhm.
who had injury history prior to this season,
Yeah.
and is now out for a extended period of time.
Right.
How can pitcher, and looking at pitchers on the trade block and the future of being signed to have injury history, how do teams perceive these injuries and thinking, okay, we're going to pay this guy $150 million and he just won't get hurt for us like he did for them?
I think that's more so just now. I mean, you look at any big name starter and name me a big name starter that hasn't had some sort of injury bug throughout their career. I think it's just almost one of those deals where if a team scouts a guy and likes what he has to offer enough, it's just one of those assessed risks. Like, yeah, we very well may lose him by the All-Star break, but we need this production. Where else are we going to get that from? You know?
Yeah, that's a way to risk with the reward for sure.
Yeah.
Alright. So, looking forward, after the Yu Darvish injury, now, I'm not sure what it's had on coming back. He paid a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is going to make teams shy away, definitely shy away from players that have the non-Tommy John injury history?
I don't think so. Just because, like I said previously, it's just, man, it's like that risk factor of we need that in our rotation. Yes, we know that they very well may be, but, you know, Kershaw, Syndergaard's had problems. You know, you name any big name starter throughout baseball, and there's something there that you could point to be like, I mean, look at the Angels signing Ohtani. They knew that he had problems coming into this season, that UCL or whatever ligament it was that he was having issues with. And what does he have issues with now? Same thing. A different ligament, but the same issue. I don't know, man. I think that there's no way around it. Pitching is, and more so like Reyes, some of this is on these guys to be honest with teams, because even when Reyes left that start in Milwaukee last month, he said that he was not feeling right coming into that start, and he just wasn't honest with the team about it. So I think that comes down to your medical staff has to know, like when they bring in Darvish, some of that's unavoidable, but you have got to make these players be accountable and honest with you, because if they miss an extra month, so be it. But I don't want to miss the whole season with you just because you weren't honest and we re-aggravate something.
Right. I kind of look at the Tommy John surgeries now in the MLB very similar to the way that we look at ACL surgeries in football now. Mm-hmm. I mean, because basically before like 2010, basically an ACL tear was like almost a death sentence for a whole entire year, and you were really unsure how guys were going to bounce back. And then in, I think it was December of 2011, Adrian Peterson tears his ACL, tears his MCL, and he's back ready to go for 2012, and he has a 2,000-yard season, and he's ready to go week 1. So medicine is improving. Guys are starting to not necessarily take as long to recover because, you know, they're getting better at the surgeries, they're getting better with the rehab, and like Cappy said, there's actually a set rehab list that these guys have figured out, and it's almost perfect now. They're getting it down to a science, and I think that Tommy John's is now basically like being looked at like an ACL tear in football, because ACL tear, you're like, okay, well, you know, 10 months and he's going to be back to 100%. And it's very, very, it's crazy. It's crazy because what used to be looked at as basically a death sentence, nobody's going to touch it. Now, this guy may come back better than what he was before. And that makes it very, very interesting. So we'll get back to what we said that it wouldn't be a weekly segment, but this week Leighton has went out and got us 2 really, really interesting trivia questions. He's actually very excited about these. So Leighton, what are your trivia questions for today?
The first question. This past Friday night, Red Sox star Stephen Wright allowed 10 earned runs against the Mariners. Red Sox came back to win that game 14-10. Since 2000, how many times has the pitcher allowed 10 or more earned runs and counting this time, and the team came back to win the game?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It has got to be since 2000.
Since 2000. The starter allowed 10 or more earned runs, including
Earned
this
runs,
time.
not just 10 runs, 10 earned runs.
10 earned runs.
2, 3 max, man.
I'm going to go with
That's-
2. I'm going to say this past week and then one other time since 2010.
The answer is actually 5 times.
Ooh,
Holy
okay.
smokes.
Wow.
Gio Gonzalez, 2009. Andy Pettit, 2008. Ryan Dempsey, 2002. And Russell Ortiz in 2000. Okay,
How about those names, man? Like, those are all, at one point, were, like, very good starting pitchers.
Yeah.
Not just, like, guys you've never heard of. That
Yeah, well, that's why they're out there even after they give up 6 runs,
That's true.
because they're still good pitchers.
that's
10
true.
runs.
Well, I know, but that's why they're out there past the 4, 5, 6 run mark, because they're
5
actually good.
times.
5 times in 2000.
Holy shit.
And actually, Russell Ortiz in 2000 got the W in that game because he went 6 2/3 innings, and at the top of the 6th inning, the Giants scored 11 runs and got him a W for that game.
Wow.
Baseball's just a crazy game, man. That's all you can attribute
That's
that to.
crazy.
I don't know. Final trivia question for this week. This past week, Mike Trout played his 1,000th career game, and this would be his 8th season. Right now, he has totaled 1,127 hits and 224 home runs. How many players have hit 1,127 hits and 224 home runs in their first 8 seasons?
I have a feeling there's going to be a name on here that blows us away.
It actually may be quite a few guys, because all time 20.
Yes, Jack?
I'm going to say it's in it. I'm going to say 10, right at 10.
The answer is 15.
15. Oh, so
That's
split the
very
difference,
fair.
baby.
I have something more real quick. Out Paul Holtz, Mark Teixeira, Ted Williams, Frank Robinson, Frank Thomas, Hank Aaron, Todd Helton, William Mays, Mickey Mantle, Miguel Cabrera, Joe DiMaggio, Chuck Klein, Ryan Braun, Chipper Jones, Eddie Murray.
Ryan Braun.
Craziest thing about this stat, Mike Trout's A season is still going, and in his first season he played 40 games.
Wow.
So by the end of the season we'll do this again, and I bet he's within the top 7 or 8 of these guys.
I saw something the other day too. I can't remember the other names that were on there, but in like their first 1,000 games, finished first or second in MVP voting. Trout had 5 times, and like, I mean, there were like all-time greats on there, and he was at least 2 or 3 spots ahead of all of them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But all right, just props to the producer right here for the past 2 segments. Great questions posed about pitching injuries and how teams perceive them, and contract money, and the trivia.
Spot on. That
Hella
was
good studying.
That's
Gotta
crazy.
give it to
that was
gotta
good.
give it to Pip.
Yeah. Yeah. Hats off.
Thank you guys.
Hats off. We appreciate those. Now to a really fun segment. Anything more than a fallacy. Guys, this is basically where we run through and we talk about guys are on pace for this number, guys are on pace for that number. This guy's having a career year. Can he sustain these numbers? And at the end of the season, are we talking about this guy the same way that we are today? First one on the list, we're back to the WAR. Probably our most favorite stat in MLB history.
My head already hurts.
Yeah, me too. Lorenzo Cain, currently 9th in the league in WAR with a WAR of 4.0. We know WAR makes absolutely no sense, but will he finish in the top 10 of WAR for this season?
I'm gonna have to go with a no. His career was only 31.1, and he's in season 9, so it's about just at 3 WAR for the season, and it's hard for me to see him in year 9, being in the top 10 of the WAR stat.
Yeah, this guess is really uneducated because I still do not understand the ins and outs of WAR.
Yeah.
There's only 3 guys in the world that understand WAR. and
Brian
they-
Guinea.
They've all kind of come to the podcast and explain it.
Yeah. Hell, I don't know. I'll say outside of it, but I cannot really give you a logical reason.
No, I'm just going to go with a no, just because he's not one of the 10 best players in baseball.
Right.
So I don't see how they factored this in for Lorenzo Cain. I guess he's having a lot better season than what I thought to make him a top 10 player in baseball.
He's batting .291 with 8 home runs, 26 RBIs.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
And then you get into like defensive factors, the fact that he takes efficient routes to balls in the outfield.
It's just.
I don't know.
Dude, I was looking up WAR because I was trying to understand it, and my brain hurt within the first 3 minutes. Did you know that the likeliness of a coach sending their player on a steal actually calculates into WAR?
It doesn't
So
surprise me.
There is a factor in this where it's solely on your manager or your third base coach. That makes no sense to me.
Oh, fuck, I don't know, man.
I don't see. I don't see how you should be able to calculate that and then say, "Yep, that guy's one of the best players in baseball."
Yeah.
Just because his coach will send him on a steal attempt, or that makes no sense.
Homework for the producer here. If we can pull up like the top 10 in Major League in WAR last season and go over it with a fine-tooth comb, I bet there is one name out of that 10 that's just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
We'll have for next week's show.
All right.
I know there was that one year that Tommy Pham was better than Chris Bryant.
Yeah.
That kind of blows my mind. So we'll go on to our second fallacy. Bryce Harper, mentioned for the second time on this show. He's batting a solid .212. Will he be able to turn things around this season and get his average above 300?
No.
I'm on both no too. I think with also Italy trying to hit 50 home runs, I can see him kind of turning the season around and batting about 275 and hitting like maybe 50 home runs, not 300.
I'm going to put him at like 285 with 45 home runs.
Yeah, I think that he's going to be up there 270, 280. He's a career 280 hitter, so that would be right on pace for him there. So like I said with Goldschmidt earlier, he's going to go on an absolute tear and get his numbers back up, but they're going to be back up to the baseline of about 280. So that really won't surprise me. Guys, I actually did a little research on Bryce Harper and just how hard he had been slumping. And I just took it to the Cubs players because that's who I knew the most. Jason Hayward has more hits than Bryce Harper this season. And you look at Harper and you think, like, this guy, if he gets a ball to the outfield, he's going to be legging for extra base hits. He has as many combined doubles and triples as Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber, the guy who's probably like the fifth slowest guy in the NL. He has as many doubles and triples combined. And Bryce Harper has 102 more plate appearances than Ben Zobrist. Ben Zobrist actually has more hits. So there's your Bryce Harper stat of the day.
Leighton, did you sense a theme in some of those comparisons with names that were brought up? Maybe.
It's either they all play in the same division.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe.
Made it NL Central, I think.
Right? Yeah, something like that.
They all play like 5 hours north in Chicago.
Right.
A
Yeah.
little windy.
Yeah.
Somewhat windy.
Yeah. The guy that's bringing up the stats may be a fan of that team. I don't know.
I just had to point it out there because I'm not saying that Jason Hayward's a good hitter by any stretch of the imagination. He's okay. But, like, for him to have more hits than Bryce Harper at this point of the season is absolutely crazy to me. And Ben Zobrist was probably the craziest one that I'd seen on there. And then you factor in the fact that Kyle Schwarber has as many doubles and triples. Like, Kyle Schwarber is not a great double hitter. I mean, I think he has...
He's not a good hitter at all.
Yeah, no. I think he has 9 doubles or triples on the season. So, I mean, Harper is slumping that bad.
Yeah.
So, he'll get things turned around. He will not get 300.
And I mean, it even really makes you wonder: is Bryce Harper as exciting as Javi Baez?
No, he's not.
I've still had 8 doubles this season.
Yeah. Did you see Javi stole a base yesterday? That's exciting.
Dude, he only bunted for a hit.
Yes.
Hey,
he did bunt for a hit.
In the same week, Javier Baez bunted for a hit, and he got from third to home on a bunt. Wow. In the same week.
Dude, this is just like the most exciting play we've ever seen ever.
He's the most exciting player in today's game, and I'll stand on that throne.
Don't take my sarcasm as hate on Javi. He is damn good. We got to give Drake shit.
Yeah.
We gotta get Drake out of this mode. Javier Baez that's coming and Jim Edmonds in the outfield.
No, he's not. He's not great, but he's exciting, good or bad. He's bad exciting. He's good exciting.
Hey.
But he's always exciting.
Hang on. Also bad exciting. Manny Ramirez.
Wait, Manny or Hanley or the same person? I think that's the same person.
Probably the same guy.
Yeah.
One hit, 5 home runs. One's killing Miami, sucking off the sun.
Dude, whenever Hanley Ramirez signed on the dotted line to go to the Boston Red Sox, did he not totally throw everything out the window and try to be Manny?
Yes.
I really think so. Like, he packed on some weight. He got the dreads. Like, he got really, really bad at defense. Mm-hmm. I think that whenever he decided to go there, he's like, yep, I'm going to be Manny Ramirez.
Hang on. Revert back to 2 minutes ago. You said Jim Edmonds.
Mm-hmm.
How exciting, whatever you want to call it, good at defense Edmonds was. You know why Drake thinks that he made all those catches?
Played shallow.
The only reason. That's
What?
the only reason.
Yeah. Hey, if you play a little shallow, you're gonna get diving plays.
Drake, that's just so stupid.
He played shallow.
That's like saying Tom Brady suck. He throws a lot of $5 passes and the guy runs.
So?
So we're saying that like 90% of the balls that Edmonds caught, like any center fielder catches them. It was just the fact that Edmonds had to dive because he played shallow.
Yeah.
It's like saying Kareem isn't really long time school because he only shot layups.
So?
I knew you would love that.
Hey, I've stood on that throne forever.
He has
On Jim
for
Edmonds.
like 15 years.
Yeah, and I will continue to stand on that. 12-year-old Drake came up with that take, and he's staying on it.
It's really unfortunate Jim Edmonds played before a time where war was a thing. We could figure out a defensive war.
I know.
They still Edmonds does have a career posted WAR.
Oh yeah, duh. He can go ahead and carry that any time.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to a guy who's, like Edmonds, also suited up for the Cardinals and the Cubs. And that's John Jay. Guys, John Jay got traded to the Diamondbacks. He now has 20 hits in 15 games since being traded. He is now 5th in the league with 93 hits. Will we see John Jay have 200 hits this season?
No, because John Jay not that good of a hitter. He's just in a hot streak.
Ooh, I don't know about that, man. He hit 300 2 or 3 years in a row for the Cardinals. He hits for average. I think he will get 200. He just needs the plate appearances.
Yeah, I'm actually going to surprise you on this because I know whenever Jay was a Cub, I didn't really like him, and I think it was just because my Cardinal hatred was coming out. He's a guy that you said, been a 300 hitter almost his whole life, and his career average just shows that. Now he's finally in a position to where he's an everyday player, and he's going to be out there for them, and you mix that with being able to hit right in front of Goldie and right in front of Jake Lamb. I know Jake Lamb's not a great average guy, but you'd rather pitch to a guy who's going to get you singles, doubles, like John Jay, than pitch to Goldschmidt, who's going to hit one out of the yard, or Jake Lamb, who's going to hit one out of the yard. And he's that guy that if he gets 600 at-bats this season, he's probably going to reach 300 hits. And I think he's going to get well over 600 plate appearances, being able to hit in front of Goldie, being a leadoff guy who's going to get more at-bats than he normally would. I think John Jay is going to get 200 hits this year, which is crazy for me to say, but I'm going to stand on that because I think he's going to get the plate appearances to do so, and he's a good enough hitter to do it.
I think a lot of things factor into this. I don't think with the Cubs that he ever got enough plate appearances to get to 200. With the Cardinals, he did get a lot of consistent at-bats there for a couple seasons. I don't know that he ever got 200, but
I think his career high is 151.
Yeah. So the thing that makes a difference for him right now is the guys that are around him in that Diamondbacks lineup. Maybe he gets more pitches to see. I don't think it's out of the question for him to get 200. So
yeah, I agree with you. You look at John Jay; he had total 33 home runs in his 9-year career, and you'd rather face that and take a chance of getting him out than facing Goldie, who's broke that in a season, or face Jake Lamb, who's gotten that in a season. So I think this is going to be very fun to watch, actually. I think that'll be fun to watch. He has 93 hits, 2 home runs this season.
And in case people don't know, I have a irrational hate of John Jay. For no real reason, I just hate John Jay.
Yeah, I've never been a John Jay guy myself, but I hope he gets 200 hits. I think that'd be good for the Diamondbacks, good for John Jay.
And in the last 10 minutes of listening to this podcast, if you have not figured it out, we at Sauce on the Side in no way, shape, or form let our biases make differences in our takes. None.
Not at all.
Does not play a factor.
No. Jim Edmonds had one good defensive season, and that was with the Cubs. So let's go ahead and transition to, if the season ended right now, what would our playoff picture look like? The AL East, your Kings are the Yankees. In the AL Central, you have the Indians. In the AL West, we have the Astros. And your AL wildcard teams are the Red Sox and Mariners. Guys, I think this is our 4th or 5th week where we've had the same exact teams. And we said, I think, the 3rd week of the same ones, that this was probably going to be your playoff picture of 5 teams. Mariners are slumping a little bit right now, but guys, do you think that this is going to be what we see at the end of the season?
I think this is going to hold because the Mariners have 3-9 or 3-6 in the last 9 games, and it's still 6 games above the Angels for the wild card race. Red Sox though have one more win than the Yankees. They're just leading the East because of the percentage. But
that's a very important stat.
These are the 5 teams we're going to have in October for the AL.
I think the most important thing I took out of that, you said the Mariners have lost how many out of their last 9 games?
6.
Out of their last 9?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. That's not bad.
No.
That's actually the perfect record.
Yes, it is.
I think this is it. I think this is what we're going to have. Pretty dead set on, like, if you took a mix of what all we had at week 1, if you took the average of where we had teams going, this is what it was going to be. You might have had the Twins in there, but obviously they're not going to make any kind of push, especially for a wild card, because, you know, you're not going to have a team in the AL Central make the wild card. I'm just going to go ahead and burst that bubble right now. But I definitely like what the Mariners are doing. They need to turn things around. They need to get Adrian Beltre and do better than losing 6 of 9.
Nice.
We'll go to the NL here. NL East, seems like this is almost what we have every week, and that's the Braves. In the NL Central, we have the Brewers. The NL West, we have the Diamondbacks. And your NL wildcard teams are the Cubs and Phillies. And I believe this is the second week in a row that we have had the same thing. This is only the second time that's happened.
Actually, the Nationals in the wild card last week.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have a mix-up. NL, keep being Bulldogs. Guys, what do you think about this?
For the NL, it's just too hard for me not seeing the Nationals and Cubs winning their divisions. I do think the Braves will be the wild card teams, and the Giants will win the NL West.
Staying on it.
I pretty well agree with everything Leighton said there. The only question really out of these, the NL playoff picture that I have, is why in the hell did I not make some sort of bet on the Braves making the playoffs?
Dude, if you did, that would have paid off huge.
I was so hot on that take, and I didn't put any money on it, and
I almost did it for you.
Damn
I
it.
almost did. That's a hot team, man, and they're good. They're all the way good.
they've been good since the beginning of the season.
So a question that you missed out on last week, Freddie Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
I think last time I haven't checked it within this week, but he was top 3 in average home runs and RBIs in the NL. Do you think there's a chance that he actually can win a Triple Crown this year?
Yeah, he's that type of hitter, and he always has been.
Yeah.
And it's not the first time he's threatened the Triple Crown. If he stays healthy, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I like that, and I would love to see that for Freddie Freeman.
And if he does, even if he flirts with the Triple Crown and the Braves make the playoffs, he would get my MVP vote.
Oh, yeah. I think it's a landslide right now that he's going to get that MVP in the NL. I think the last time I checked, he was actually at negative odds. So, Vegas thinks it's going to happen.
And next week is actually our half point of the season show, so we'll have all these things answered more in depth for you guys next week.
Let's go.
All right, so let's do a little views from the cheap seats. This is basically where we take you around and we talk about what we're excited to watch for this week and what you dippers should definitely be keeping an eye on as well. Guys, what do you have?
We talked about a lot on this show, but this is the point of time where you start seeing guys get traded. We have just over a month of the non-waiver trade deadline, and I think we're going to start seeing maybe no one huge yet, but definitely some of the relievers start being moved to some teams.
Yeah, that's a good call. Do you think that the non-waiver trade deadline, the biggest trade made last season, I think, was Verlander at the waiver trade deadline. So do you think there will be a bigger move before the end of August or the end of July?
I think it would be before that because I don't see him start making it through waivers.
I agree. I think that's the big factor in that, and I think that's a good call. My view from the cheap seats this week actually has nothing to do with Major League Baseball and everything to do with college baseball. Watch this week for Monday, Tuesday, and if necessary, Wednesday night. The Oregon State Beavers, coming off of an elimination last year before the finals in a season in which they finished 56-6. They have some unfinished business against the Arkansas Razorbacks and Blaine Knight with the Razorbacks, who look to be a great starter in the major league someday. He has a 3-pitch setup and is damn good. I think it's going to be a 3-game set. I think it's going to be a very good series.
Who you taking?
I am taking the Razorbacks.
Me too. Woo! Big sweat! My view actually is going to be, I'm going to stay on the John Jay train. I want to see how he continues, if he's able to continue this success, because I think that if this lasts a couple more weeks, I really think that it's going to be a season-long thing. Because we've seen in the past when guys get traded, they absolutely explode, and then the fire kind of dies off of them, and the excitement's just not there for the player. I think that this week will be a huge telltale sign to see what we're going to get out of John Jay for the remainder of the season, because that addition of John Jay could possibly make the Diamondbacks one of the scariest teams in the West, and I can't believe I'm actually saying that. Guys, anything?
Scarier than the Giants even?
Yeah, absolutely scarier than the Giants.
What do you think about that, Leighton?
Just wait.
Just wait, because none of those guys are getting older. Anything else before we wrap this back
Yeah,
up?
one more thing. Just to stay on college baseball for just 1 second. I wanted to bring this up at some point in the show. I was going to bring it up in my corner, which somehow became Pip's corner, but it was damn good, so I'm okay with that. But the one thing I want to pose to you guys is last night, Mississippi State, basically the equivalent of what I would say probably like a 9 or 10 seed in the tournament, if it were like equivalent to the NCAA tournament in basketball. And it was essentially a Final Four game because the winner of that game last night went to the finals against Oregon State, who was the 3rd seed in the country, so it would have been like a 1 versus 10 matchup. Mississippi State's been a hell of a story all season. They started 16-16, and they're in the Final Four. On a Saturday night on ESPN, I have not seen the numbers, but take that, equivalent it to if it were a basketball game, a Final Four game, what do you think the viewership numbers are?
Oh,
Not even half?
yeah.
Probably not even a fourth, man.
Why not, man? Why are there so many people that love watching Major League Baseball that I talk to, but nobody likes watching college baseball?
I've actually been tuned into this College World Series.
Dude, every year I wait for it because that's the only time that they televise college baseball is during the tournament. And I hate that because I really like watching, and I know my opinion's biased because, like, if a freaking junior high baseball game were on, I'd watch it. But
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, why is there such the difference in college football and college basketball are up here, and then college baseball is, like, not even on the map?
It doesn't make any sense to me. And I think what's really going to help college baseball out in the future is that, you know, you rewind 5 years ago, they didn't really have the regionals, super regionals, and all that thing, all those televised. Now you're actually getting to learn the teams because they are having the regionals out there, and you're starting to actually learn the players rather than, boom, College World Series is on, and that's the only time you see them. So I'm happy that they've kind of went that route to give us more games. That way you can actually, you know, quote unquote, like, fall in love with the teams, fall in love with the players. And Mississippi State was one of those teams that from the beginning, you know, you kind of liked them because they were that underdog story.
Yeah.
So you actually got to learn those players. You got to learn about the Ladybugs. You got to learn about everything. And that was cool. I like that. And I think that that's actually going to help with the viewership of baseball going forward at the college ranks.
Yeah.
Leighton, you fit the criteria of, like, loves watching college football and college basketball, is not on the college baseball train, but you like Major League Baseball. Like, what's the difference? What's the fallout?
You're actually wrong. Kind of like college baseball.
You do.
Because they're all 19, 23-year-old douchebags who bat flip every home run.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they're cocky as shit. And
Okay.
that's the best college sports to watch.
All right. But what do you think the difference is? Like, why do you think it is such a difference?
I think there's a lot most to the things. I think that NFL is bigger than NCAA football because there are fewer things to follow.
Mhm.
You have 32 teams compared to 140 something teams.
Yeah.
So fewer players know about it, it's easier to follow. And the biggest fault, and they say college baseball isn't televised or talked about at all except for like 2 months out of the year. And I think that's bigger than anything else because you don't know the players.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I don't understand it because a lot of these guys, you look at some of the big names that have played huge in the College World Series, end up being stars in the major leagues. So
Yeah, and I think what hurts baseball at the college standpoint, and even with the draft, you see how little was paid attention to the MLB draft compared to, you know, you have a Thursday night whole special on the NBA draft, or you have a whole weekend set, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, of the NFL draft. Everybody's tuned in, everybody's watching. I think what hurts them the worst is that you don't get to get these teams into these players into the MLB 3 or 4 or 5 years, you know? So these guys are on the shelf for a little bit, and people aren't as locked in because everybody wants that instant gratification of, oh, this player is here today, tomorrow I'll be watching him play for the Astros, or I'll be watching him play for the Cardinals or the Cubs, or, you know, I'm going to get this guy immediately tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Baseball's not like that. So you have to wait on these guys, you know? You're not as dialed in, and I think that's why the draft has had some pretty poor numbers for baseball compared to the other big sports.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the College World Series isn't as big compared to, you know, March Madness or like, you know, the college football playoff. I really think that's why, because everybody wants the professional sport and you want to see how these guys are going to be before they get there. But you might not remember that guy here 3 or 4 years down the road.
I am going to give you one name real quick, and then I'll get off my college baseball kick and we can wrap up the show. Adley Rutschman, the catcher for the Oregon State Beavers. He is a sophomore. He has had 2 very good seasons so far, and he is only getting better from an offensive standpoint. I'm going to throw a comparison out there at you, maybe not quite to these likes, but look for this guy, Buster Posey type player in the big leagues.
Wow.
Okay.
That would be pretty awesome. Did he get drafted this year?
Yeah, but it was late rounds. He's not going. He's going to come back and probably put up one of the best careers at Oregon State ever, even if he does it in 3 seasons, and then he's going to move on. And like I said, Posey type guy.
Wow. Those are pretty high expectations, but I like it. That could be a little bold prediction that we can watch out for down the road. Guys, definitely thanks for listening. Cappy, thank you for sitting in. For Drake, for Cappy, and Leighton, Dippers, as always, stay saucy.